Doug Karsch, Scott Anderson, 97.1. Breaking news at this hour. If you just flipped your radio on, Detroit has made a trade, and it is a big name leaving Detroit. David Montgomery shipped off to the Houston Texans for a 4th-round pick, Juice Scruggs, who will compete in the interior of the offensive line, and a future 7th-round pick. Intriguing. If you haven't been following the timeline, and again, when the trade first got announced, it was announced by Ian Rappaport, and it was David Montgomery for a 5th-round pick. And we're like, well, and I guess that's the best you can do in a world where sometimes when a player and a team, when it's over, the market dictates that player will get nothing in return, and you end up just cutting them for the cap savings. In this particular case, Detroit gets a little bit of cap savings this year, more cap savings next year. They get a player that I'm guessing they think can compete in there in Juice Scruggs. Maybe not. Might just be a throw-in. But and the 2 draft picks, the 4th and the 7th, is certainly better than a 5th. We're still trying to figure out which of the 4th-round picks that Houston is sending back because they have one early in the 4th and one late in the 4th. But for a team with no 3rd, Detroit is gobbling up some draft capital. And a draft that's good to have draft capital given the Lions' needs. But one of their needs now is running back. And David Montgomery was a heck of a soldier here for Detroit. I don't think anybody has anything but good things to say about David Montgomery. But I also think many people sort of understand in this evolving world and roster, you kind of get to the point where, all right, where are you going to save money and where can you go with a cheaper alternative? When you have the NFL's current favorite to be the offensive player of the year as your starting running back, you can kind of understand why you might want to save money on the backup. Now, do they need a backup? Yeah, they do. And whether they go into free agency and grab a cheaper version of a running back who won't probably, I would imagine, it would be hard to see him exceeding what Montgomery did in Detroit. A draft pick might be the thing.
This is better than the 5th round that was originally put out there, for sure. Yeah. Like, for sure, because Scruggs, he was a center at Penn State, right? Like, so
yeah, he's a center guard combo.
Yeah, he played mostly guard in the NFL career, but I think he started a whole season maybe at center for the Texans, and like I said, played center at Penn State. This is where they said we got to bring back competition to the room, and he's going to compete for the center or guard, position, and make guys earn their spots here, whether it's Mahogany, Ratledge. If Glasgow's still on the team or not, they need competition. They need some real players, and hopefully they push each other so we get the offensive line that we're accustomed to seeing here. So I think the fact that the versatility that he brings, he's still young. You get that potential upside with the 2 draft capital. I think this is the best you could have done for David Montgomery.
I mean, essentially they got a reasonable return and maybe even a little bit better than that. It hurts. It hurts. Everybody liked David Montgomery. And I don't think there's anything but respect coming from Detroiters for that player. What's your feelings, Detroit? Breaking news at this hour. Let's go to Sean in Troy. You're next. What's up, Sean?
Hey, Doug. Hey, Gator.
Hey.
Love the show. Listen on lunch every day.
Thank you.
Yep. 3 points. First and foremost, I just want to thank David Montgomery for all he's done last 3 years. Sad to see him go. Was a fan of him even when he was in Chicago. And wish him nothing but the best. Point 2, I want to commend Brad Holmes for this deal. Much better than a 5th-round pick. We got an O-line depth and a 4th-rounder that I agree with you guys probably will be spent on a running back or 5th-rounder. But the names you mentioned at free agency, you mentioned 3 old guys.
Yep.
Who all fill the same role that Gibbs does. I got a few names.
Let's go.
Some younger guys who are more bruisers and we could get probably for cheap.
Who you got?
I got A.J. Dillon, Brian Robinson Jr., and Antonio Gibson.
Well, none of those guys are going to cost you much money.
Exactly, and all 3 are 225 pounds plus, 6-foot running backs who can be hammers.
Yeah. So you had Dillon, you had Brian Robinson. Who was the third one?
Antonio Gibson.
Okay, yeah. I mean, all those guys fit the bill, and none of them would cost a ton of money. So, take a look.
Personally, I like Dillon, but, I'd be happy with any one of the three.
Thank you for the phone call, Sean. 248-539-9797. Yeah, our initial peruse of the free agent list, I like to go to Spot Track with their projected market values. I mean, there's a lot of running backs out there in free agency, and I don't know where you draw the line. Do you draw that nobody over $2.5 million? Market value would you go after? That would narrow down the field, but A.J. Dillon would fit that as his projected market value is just $1 million contract. Now, there's a reason why these guys are available. You can shoot holes in any of them, right? As far as what they'd bring to the table.
Sure, and you could also go the route of the draft.
Yep. 248-539-9797. Rodney in Westland. What's up, Rodney?
I don't like the trade.
Okay.
The Lions are going to regret it. Montgomery scored 33 touchdowns in 3 years with us. What made our offense scary was the duel of Gibbs and Montgomery. If we don't have a good running game, Goff is going to he's going to look worse. And they just made the team worse. The Lions are going to regret this trade.
So I would hold on here for a sec, Rodney. Just we'll give you some time. I agree everything you said about the running game, that they need the running game, but doesn't it feel as though the resources are likely going to be put into the offensive line to improve the running game, and that they have a back that's more versatile and better than David Montgomery to lead the way?
No. Holmes could have had the line. He messed up. He could have made the offensive line better last year, which he refused to do, like we needed a defensive end for the last 2 years.
Hold on.
He refused to do that.
But doing what he's doing now, whether you would have done it last year or not, you don't think he should do it now, improve the offensive line?
Oh, no question about that. But he led one of our best. Our offense was one of the best offense last 2 years. That's because of Gibbs and Montgomery. Lions have a history of getting injured, right? So if Gibbs gets injured, then what?
Oh, Gibbs gets injured. That's a big blow, without question.
Yeah.
That's true of every team.
I think the biggest problem with the Lions' offense last year was the offensive line. You're trying to replace Frank Ragnow after the draft because that's when he let you know that he was going to retire, and that threw everything in a tailspin. I don't think Brad Holmes refused to address the offensive line. I think they drafted with the second-round pick, and he ended up starting at right guard for them. I would assume they tried to add at the trade deadline, and they just couldn't get it done with an offensive lineman.
Well, they scored and went else, but they should have did everything to keep Montgomery up. Just watch, our offense is not going to be good as the last 2 years when everyone talked about the Lions offense. They were worried about playing us because of the Lions offense. Well, they just made our team.
If they improve the offensive line, do you think the offense will be okay?
Not unless they get a decent backup, but I don't see that.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, look, your impression of how important David Montgomery was to the success and failure of this offense, what a critical cornerstone piece he was, you put more weight in that than I would. I do think he's been an important part. I think it's possible that if this offense improves the offensive line, in fact, I think it's likely they will be far more explosive next year than they were last year. And that's without knowing who RB2 is at this point.
Yeah, and
if you're going to tell me resources are put into fixing the O-line.
Without knowing what the offense is going to look like because they have a new offense coming in.
Yep.
I have no idea what it's going to look like. But I like the weapons that they have. Do they need to add another running back? Yes. I think you can do that through the draft, or when we talked about we can do it in free agency if you feel like it. But the number one thing that they have to do, prioritize with the offense, is get a center.
Yep. But now, let's remember something that caller said, though. And he's entitled to his opinion. I'm not mad at him in the slightest. But he's mad at Brad Holmes because he also didn't add another edge rusher. Even though the edge rusher they signed gave him 11.5 sacks, he's mad about that still. He also feels like the offense needs 2 running backs. He wants 2 edge rushers, 2 running backs, which I'd love to have. But it is a cap world. And they're moving money around to try and improve the football team. But, he again, entitled to his opinion, but I'll just give you the reasons why I think it's flawed.
I think it's flawed.
All right, we got breaking news today. If you just joined us, David Montgomery dealt. We'll get more of your reaction to that. Champ and Chump votes as well. 97.1.